And I got to tell you that I have a really good free money question of the day. Chance at $100, $200, or $300 in cash coming up here before 9 o'clock. You look like you're going to say something.
Christine does not have a long weekend. In fact, she's going to be working all weekend. So
all weekend?
Well, I think you're here tomorrow. You're here Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Am I wrong on that?
No, I think you're right, yeah.
Well, you're just being informed of that then. If you're if
No,
you
no,
didn't
she
know.
knew. We talked about it yesterday. I'm like, I think it is your weekend.
Listen, one of the things to think about this weekend is
I'm on call.
As Christine's going to be working. Of all people, the only veteran in the house, right?
You know what? Seriously, take tomorrow off.
No, that's actually we do have another veteran in the building.
Well,
at
in our
least
house.
one other. In our house.
But I want you to think about this though, with the humidity and the heat. One of the things that this is opening the door for here, and I was feeling it last night, trying to sit out on the patio, is the mosquito season is kicking in, and never before, at least in our lifetime, have we had so many issues with mosquitoes. From what was the old one a few years back? It was, what disease could you? I mean, there've been.
I can't.
West Nile.
West Nile.
Yeah.
West Nile was a big deal, but this Zika seems much worse. Dr. Don Bucklan is on the line right now, who is an expert on all of this. He's the regional medical director for the U.S. HealthWorks, practicing clinical occupational medicine for more than 25 years. Doc, this is you have to worry about mosquitoes now.
Yes, but we've been worried about mosquitoes for a long time. As you mentioned, there's
malaria,
a bunch
of
of
course.
other things they carry: dengue fever, Japanese encephalitis, West Nile.
Yeah.
And now the new one is Zika.
Zika, yeah. So this can cause some complications for men and flu-like symptoms and that sort of thing. It can be a little rough for most. Am I correct with that? Yet pregnant women is the real issue here.
Right. The disease itself, only 1 out of 5 people who get it are even sick enough to go to the doctor. So most people just blow it off. They're not very sick. They may be totally fine, even though they have it. Now, the real problems are in pregnant women because there's a high associated rate of birth defects.
Yeah.
So with regards to that, doctor, now is it possible for a woman to contract Zika through a mosquito bite, then become pregnant, and those risks will still exist, or does the woman have to be pregnant when she contracts it?
We believe that it is totally safe for a woman to get pregnant 8 weeks after she has recovered from Zika.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So, so you don't stay, there's nothing that keeps you at risk for birth defects.
Got it.
Once the virus is cleared, which they say will clear within 8 weeks in women.
Does it naturally clear, though, or do you have to be on medicines to clear? Like if a little girl is bitten now, will she have a baby 20 years from now that's affected if she's not treated?
Or does it just dissipate on its own?
No, it just goes away on its own, like all viruses, measles, chickenpox, etc. You make antibodies against it that kills the virus, and once you're over it, you're usually immune for life.
Did you see the story this morning? I was reading somewhere that there's a super germ for the first time in the United States that actually an antibiotic is it's not affected by an antibiotic.
Well, we've been flirting with that for a long time.
Yeah. But it really hasn't hit the United States. I believe this is the first time we're facing it here in this country.
Yeah, the nice thing about that is, if there is a nice thing, is the more resistant the germ, the weaker it is, because it uses all of its strength to become resistant to everything. So these super resistant bugs are not highly infectious.
All right. And back to the Zika, and I've always wondered this about HIV. Is so you're infected as a human, whether it's the Zika virus or whatever. The mosquito bites you, and then it bites someone else. We have believed and are told that there's no way that it can be transmitted from one person to a mosquito to another person.
No, it can be It can be communicated. If you have Zika, you're bit by a particular kind of mosquito, and then that mosquito bites the next person, that person probably will get Zika.
Wow.
It's a vector disease, meaning it's transmitted via mosquito.
But that would not happen with the HIV virus.
Oh, no. The HIV virus does not get passed on via vector. In other words, there's no mosquito passing on of HIV.
Crazy. Andrew.
So we had one woman call up, doctor, that asks, does it matter what stage in the pregnancy? So is it the first trimester is more of a risk for birth defects, or is it the third? Or can you answer that?
The jury is still out on that.
Yeah.
We don't have enough experience yet to say that there's any time when you're pregnant that it's safe to get Zika. So the best thing, if you are pregnant or planning on getting pregnant, you just stay away from South America, Central America, any of those places until you have a healthy baby.
It's funny. My son came back from Mexico, and within a couple of days developed this what looked like an allergic reaction, and then it looked like mosquito bites, and then it developed into a rash. And we've spent the last 2 weeks going to doctors and emergency rooms where they just keep throwing medicine at us. And the last doctor we spoke with said, it's a shame that we're not still in Mexico because they probably know exactly what you have. But here, we're completely perplexed. We don't know what it is. Are we seeing this? And that's why travel, you have to be concerned, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's always the case. We can diagnose this. It's fairly easy to diagnose.
Yeah.
You do some antibody studies, and that pins it down. But most people aren't sick enough to even draw blood on or even go to see a doctor.
Right.
But you have to, it's unique transmission, meaning you have to have a person that's susceptible to it and a person that has Zika, and the mosquito has to bite the person with Zika in an 11-day period, okay? Because after 2 weeks with Zika, you don't have virus in your blood, so you can't give it to the mosquito, and they can't give it to anyone else. So there's a special window here when you can pass it on.
Well, that's interesting how you say we can't give it to the mosquito, but that is certainly possible there. Very, very interesting. You could live in a house. I could be Zika positive. I could live with my family, 2 daughters, wife, and they would be perfectly safe unless a special type of mosquito managed to swarm in my house. Wow. It is funny, though, to watch somebody. I mean, it's not funny, but you watch, I'm talking about my wife, get bitten by a mosquito and go crazy over it because, oh, my God, I have been bitten by the mosquito. And, and then it's, the time is ticking now. We're trying to see, has she caught something? I mean, the chances of catching something up here right now are pretty small. Jan has a question. She's a nurse. Dr. Bucklan, by the way, is who we're speaking with. Jan is a nurse and has a question for you, Doc. Go ahead, Jan. Go ahead,
Hello.
Jen. Yes, go ahead.
I love your show.
Thank
but
you.
I just wanted to ask a question that's been in back of my mind since we've been hearing over the weeks about this Zika virus with the microcephaly. The thing is, it did mention in the paper early on that this has been prevalent, very prevalent in Africa for years. Have they reported microcephaly there through the years?
Were you able to get that, Doctor?
Well, what was the question at the very end? I'm sorry.
Your question was, what was it again at the end?
In Africa, it has been very prevalent for years, the paper said early on. But have there been any reports of microcephaly in those babies born there through the years?
Oh, well, there has been a dramatic increase in microcephaly in Brazil and in South America, Central America, etc., since the Zika virus has been prevalent. But again, you have to get the Zika virus while you're pregnant.
Okay.
If you get it before you get pregnant, you'll be fine. If you get it after you've delivered, you'll be fine.
She's asking if that was prevalent in Africa all of these years and if there's a history, right?
The first diagnosed case where it was widespread was in Micronesia in 2007. So even though we isolated the virus way back in 1947 in Uganda, it didn't really bother anybody until 2007.
Okay, I wonder why that is.
Oh, maybe some warming of the climate, spread of the disease.
Oh,
but
air
travel.
Yeah, Jan, interesting. A good question, Jan.
Well, thank you very much.
All right. Have a great weekend, by the way.
Yes, you too.
Doc, of course, the big question, I just hung up on her. I'm sorry, Jan. But the question is prevention, right? What should we do? And people are afraid of DEET, but really, every doctor that I've spoken with says you're really better off using something with that product. That chemical.
Well, actually, DEET is a very effective and probably the most effective mosquito repellent. And you hear all kinds of commotion about it, but seriously, there's very, very little risk of getting anything bad. And it's effective.
Yeah.
Keeps the mosquitoes away.
All right, Doc, we appreciate your time. Dr. Donald Bucklan.
My great pleasure.
Learned a lot here this morning. Thanks so much.
Thank you.